I saw the parking spot. At the exact same moment he did, the last available space on the entire street, a miracle in Naples' chaotic Centro Storico, where parking was a competitive blood sport, and double parking was considered a legitimate lifestyle choice. I'd been circling for 20 minutes already, late for a client meeting that could make or break my fledgling graphic design business. My ancient Fiat 500 was sputtering ominously. The check engine light had been on for 3 weeks. I was running on 4 hours of sleep and pure caffeine-fueled desperation. So when that spot appeared, perfectly sized, legally marked, blessed by whatever parking gods existed, I didn't hesitate. I gunned the engine and aimed my tiny car straight toward salvation. That's when I heard it, the deep, powerful roar of an engine that cost more than my annual income. A black Maserati, sleek, polished, predatory, approaching the same spot from the opposite direction, and the man driving it clearly had the same idea I did. We reached the space simultaneously, our cars angled toward each other, like two fighters in a ring. Through my cracked windshield, I saw him, tall, dark-haired, wearing sunglasses that probably cost more than my monthly rent, a jawline sharp enough to cut glass. He looked like he'd stepped straight out of a luxury fragrance at the kind of man accustomed to getting exactly what he wanted, without resistance. He motioned for me to back up. I shook my head and pointed at my blinker, which had been flashing first. He motioned again, more insistently. I didn't move. This was my parking spot. I'd seen it first. I'd indicated first, and I was absolutely, definitively, not giving it up to some entitled man, driving a car worth more than my entire life savings. The Maserati's driver door opened. He unfolded himself from the car with smooth, practiced ease, the kind that suggested either elite athletic training or a lifetime of people stepping aside. Up close, he was even more imposing, easily 6'3", broad-shouldered, dressed in a flawlessly tailored, dark gray suit, the kind only a master Italian tailor could make. He walked toward my car, confident, unhurried. I could see the exact moment he expected me to roll down my window and comply. I stayed exactly where I was, engine running, foot on the brake, my little Fiat positioned diagonally across the space, making it impossible for his Maserati to squeeze in. He rapped on my window, with knuckles that looked like they'd seen their share of violence. I cracked the window, approximately 3 centimeters. "Yes?" I asked, in my sweetest voice. "You're in my spot," he said. His voice was deep and smooth, carrying the kind of Neapolitan accent that suggested he'd grown up in the city's wealthier districts. "Actually," I replied, "I'm in my spot. I saw it first. I indicated first, and my car is currently occupying the space. That makes it mine." One dark eyebrow lifted above his sunglasses. "You can't be serious." "Completely," I said. "And now if you'll excuse me, I'm late for a meeting." I eased my foot off the brake, starting to inch forward, ready to straighten out and claim the space properly. His hand came down on my roof, not aggressive, but firm enough to make one thing clear. I wasn't going anywhere. "I'll give you one more chance to reconsider," he said. His tone shifted, not quite threatening, almost amused. "I'm a busy man. I don't have time for parking negotiations. Move your car." "No." The word slipped out before I could stop it. I don't know what possessed me. Maybe it was the lack of sleep. Maybe the stress of building a business from nothing while living in a shoebox apartment. Or maybe it was men like him, wealthy, powerful, arrogant, who always assumed they could take whatever they wanted, while people like me had to fight for every small victory. Whatever the reason, I was not backing down. "No," he repeated, as if the concept itself offended him. "No. This is my parking spot. Find another one. There are no other spots on this street." "Then I guess you'll have to park somewhere else," I said calmly. "Via Chaya has a parking garage 2 blocks away. I'm sure they'll be thrilled to accommodate a Maserati." I saw his jaw tighten, the muscle jumping beneath his skin. For a moment, I thought he might explode, yell, threaten, maybe even call a tow truck. Instead, he laughed. It started as a quiet chuckle and grew into real laughter, his shoulders shaking. He lifted his sunglasses, and for the first time, I saw his eyes, dark brown, almost black, sharp with intelligence, and something else I couldn't quite name. "You have no idea who I am, do you?" he asked. I don't care who you are, I said. You could be the mayor of Naples, and you'd still have to find your own parking spot. The mayor would definitely have to, he said, still smiling. But I'm not the mayor. He paused. I'm Carlo Ferretti. He said the name like it should mean something, like I should recognize it instantly and apologize. Or grovel. I didn't. I stared at him blankly. Congratulations? He looked delighted. You really don't know. Should I? Most people in this town would. He leaned down, lowering his face closer to my cracked window. Carlo Ferretti, he said calmly. I own the building you're parked in front of, and the restaurant on the corner, and roughly 40% of the commercial real estate in the Centro Storico. Oh no, that Carlo Ferretti. Even I, who paid minimal attention to Naples' business elite, had heard whispers about the Ferretti family. Old money tangled with new power. Interests ranging from legitimate freight transport to ventures discussed only in deliberately vague terms. Carlo Ferretti was rumored to be the youngest and most ruthless of 3 brothers, the one who expanded the family empire while maintaining a reputation for brilliance and danger, and I had just told him to park in a garage 2 blocks away. Well, I said, forcing composure, that's very impressive, but it doesn't change the fact that I was here first. His grin widened. Most people, he said, realize who I am, apologize immediately, and move their car. You're doubling down. He studied me closely. That's either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid. Probably both, I admitted. But I'm still not moving. Carlo examined me for a long moment. My face, my ancient Fiat, then the portfolio bag on my passenger seat. Adriana Romano design. You're heading to a meeting, he said. Not a question. I nodded. Important client? Potentially, I replied. If I get there before they give up on me. And you'd risk angering me, he said evenly. Someone you now know owns a large portion of this neighborhood. Over a parking spot? I'd risk angering the Pope himself over this parking spot, I said. I've been circling for 20 minutes. I'm not giving it up. Something shifted in his expression. Amusement, turning into something else. Interest. What's your name? He asked. Why do you want to know? Because I like knowing the names of people who impress me, he said. And you've impressed me. Not many people tell me no. Even fewer do it twice. I hesitated, then answered anyway. Adriana Romano. Well, Adriana Romano, he said slowly. You've put me in an interesting position. I could have your car towed. I could make a phone call and have parking enforcement here in minutes. I could make your life very difficult. My heart hammered, but I kept my face calm. You could, I said, but you won't. One dark eyebrow lifted. Won't I? He asked. And what makes you so sure? Because you're enjoying this too much, I said. I gestured toward his face. You're smiling. You think this is funny? If you were actually angry, you'd have already made those calls, instead of standing here negotiating. Carlo's smile widened, slowly turning into a full grin. Observant, he said. Are you this direct with all your clients, or only with men? Who could make your professional life complicated? Just with men who try to intimidate me. Over parking spots, I replied. In business meetings, I'm very professional. I don't doubt it. He straightened and stepped away from my car. For a moment, I thought he was conceding, leaving, letting me have the spot. Instead, he pulled out his phone and made a call. I couldn't hear what he said, but it lasted less than 30 seconds. He slipped the phone back into his pocket and looked at me again. That same infuriating smile in place. I've made arrangements. My stomach tightened. What kind of arrangements? You'll see. He returned to his Maserati. I watched in growing confusion as he started the engine, then pulled forward and parked diagonally across the street in what was definitely not a legal parking spot. He got out, locked the car, and walked toward the building he apparently owned. At the entrance, he turned back. You win, Adriana Romano, he called. The spot is yours. But this conversation isn't over. What's that supposed to mean? I called back. It means I'm not accustomed to losing, he said calmly. And I'm not accustomed to being intrigued by stubborn women who drive cars held together by rust and determination. So I'm making a new arrangement. I didn't agree to any arrangement. Dinner, he interrupted. Tomorrow night, 8 o'clock. I'll pick you up. I don't even know you. I shot back. I'm not having dinner with you. Yes, you are. His voice didn't rise, didn't threaten. It didn't need to. Because I'm going to find out everything about you, he continued evenly. Where you live, where you work, who you're meeting today. And tomorrow at 8, I'll arrive at your door and you'll come to dinner with me. That's stalking, I snapped. That's literally stalking. That's due diligence. He smiled, slow, dangerous. And you'll come because you're curious. Because in the 5 minutes we've been arguing over a parking spot, you felt more alive than you have in months. Because you want to know what happens next. I opened my mouth to tell him exactly what he could do with his dinner invitation, but before I could speak, he turned and disappeared into the building. I sat there in my car, heart racing, hands trembling on the steering wheel. What the hell had just happened? I glanced at the clock on my dashboard. 15 minutes late. I needed to park, pull myself together, and get to the client before they decided. I was too unprofessional to hire. I maneuvered my Fiat into the spot, cut the engine, and took 3 steady breaths. Carlo Ferretti could make all the declarations he wanted about dinner and not giving me choices. I was a grown woman. I made my own decisions. If he showed up at my door, if he somehow found out where I lived, I simply wouldn't answer. Problem solved. Except, even as I thought it, I knew I was lying to myself. Because he was right. I was curious, and in those 5 minutes of arguing over a parking space, I'd felt more alive than I had in months of careful planning, of playing it safe, of being the responsible, professional version of myself that clients trusted. I grabbed my portfolio and headed to the meeting, telling myself I'd worry about Carlo Ferretti later. The meeting took place in a converted palazzo, now home to several creative agencies. The potential client was a boutique hotel chain, looking to rebrand. Landing this contract would mean 3 months of guaranteed income, enough to fix my car, pay down some debt, maybe even afford a better apartment. I was still rattled from the confrontation outside, but I forced myself to focus. And somehow, the meeting went better than expected. They liked my portfolio, responded to my vision, promised a decision within the week. I walked out cautiously hopeful, the kind of hope you earn after years of learning, not to count on anything, until ink hits paper. When I reached my car, my phone chimed. Unknown number, you were 17 minutes late to your meeting at Romano & Associates. The clients waited, which suggests they're genuinely interested in your work. Good sign. My blood went cold. I replied with shaking fingers. Me. How do you know where I was? This is harassment. Unknown. This is information gathering. There's a difference. The clients own 3 boutique hotels. Annual revenue is approximately 8 million euros. They're a good opportunity for you. I hope you impress them. Me. Stop stalking me. Unknown. Dinner tomorrow. 8 p.m. Wear something nice, but not formal. We're going to Pizzeria da Michele, not some pretentious establishment. I'll pick you up at your apartment, on Via San Gregorio Armeno. My chest tightened. He knew where I lived. Of course he did. Men like Carlo Ferretti probably employed entire teams, whose sole purpose was knowing things about people. Me. I'm not coming to dinner. Lose my number. A pause. Then, unknown. Yes, you are, and I never lose anything. I want to keep. See you tomorrow, Adriana. I blocked the number immediately, my hands shaking with anger. And something else. Something dangerously close to excitement. This was insane. I should go to the police, file a report, document everything. Except, what would I even say? That a powerful man had invited me to dinner at a pizza restaurant? That he'd found publicly available information about my address and a business meeting? Nothing he'd done was technically illegal. Just deeply unsettling. And if I was honest with myself, in some twisted way, flattering. When was the last time anyone had pursued me with this kind of single-minded intensity? When was the last time I'd felt wanted, instead of merely tolerated? My last relationship ended 18 months ago, when my ex casually mentioned he was moving to Milan for work, and hadn't thought to include me in his plans. The way one does, when the other person is an afterthought, easy to leave behind. Carlo Ferretti was many things. Arrogant, invasive, probably dangerous, but he didn't treat me like an afterthought. I drove home through Naples' chaotic traffic, my thoughts racing. My apartment was a tiny studio, in the heart of the old city, a 4th-floor walk-up with no elevator, overlooking laundry lines, and ancient church steeples. It was cramped, loud, and I loved it fiercely. The way you love something you fought hard to earn. That evening I buried myself in work. Polished the hotel rebrand proposal, tweaked layouts, refined color palettes. I tried to force Carlo Ferretti out of my mind. It didn't work. Every time my phone chimed, with a legitimate notification, my heart jumped, half expecting him to have found another way through. Around midnight, there was a knock at my door. I froze. No one knocked at midnight, unless something was wrong. "Who is it?" I called. "Delivery for Signorina Romano." I opened the door cautiously. A young man stood there, holding an enormous bouquet of flowers. Not roses, wildflowers. The kind that grew in the hills around Naples. Unpretentious. Unexpected. "I didn't order flowers," I said. "They're already paid for," he replied. "Cards inside." He handed them over, and left before I could say another word. The card was simple. For being the first person in years to tell me no, tomorrow, 8 p.m. Don't make me come get you. I should have thrown them away. Should have marched straight to the nearest police station. Instead, I put them in water and stared at them for 20 minutes, trying to understand what game Carlo Ferretti was playing. The next day, I threw myself into work. I finalized the hotel proposal, responded to emails, updated my portfolio website. Anything to avoid thinking about 8 p.m. I told myself I absolutely would not be ready at 8 p.m. when Carlo showed up. I would be in my pajamas, eating leftover pasta, making it clear that his demands meant nothing to me. At 7:30, I found myself in the shower. At 7:45, I was standing in front of my tiny closet, trying to decide what nice but not formal meant. At 7:50, I was dressed in dark jeans and a silk blouse, with minimal makeup and hair down, telling myself this didn't mean I was going to dinner with him. I was just being prepared in case he actually showed up, so I could tell him to his face that this was unacceptable. At precisely 8 p.m., there was a knock on my door. I opened it to find Carlo Ferretti, looking somehow even more devastating than he had been yesterday. He wore dark jeans and a black button-down shirt, sleeves rolled to his elbows, revealing muscular forearms, a bit tousled and disheveled, as if he'd been running his hands through it. He looked less like a business mogul, and more like a very attractive man who was trying not to look too intimidating. "You're ready," he observed, his eyes traveling over my outfit with obvious approval. "I knew you would be." "I'm not going to dinner with you," I said, even as I grabbed my purse. "Yes, you are. We've established this." He held out his hand. "Come on. The restaurant gets crowded after 8:30. "I don't take orders from strangers." "Good. I wouldn't want someone who did, but I'm not a stranger anymore. I'm Carlo, you're Adriana, and we're going to have the best pizza in Naples while we figure out why we can't stop thinking about each other." "I haven't been thinking about you," I lied. His smile suggested he knew exactly how much I'd been thinking about him. "Then you'll have plenty of time during dinner to catch up. Come on, Adriana. Stop fighting this. You know you want to come." He was right. Damn him. He was right. I did want to go. I wanted to understand what this odd rapport was, and why this arrogant man who had stalked my schedule and invaded my privacy made me feel more energized than I had in years. "One dinner," I stated firmly, "and then you leave me alone." "One dinner?" he agreed, but the look in his dark eyes suggested he was lying as much as I was. The Maserati was parked illegally outside my building. Of course it was, with a young man standing guard beside it. Carlo nodded to him, and the man immediately disappeared, presumably to make himself scarce. "You have someone guarding your car?" I asked as Carlo opened the passenger door for me. "I have someone making sure it doesn't get towed. There's a difference." He waited until I was seated before closing the door with deliberate accuracy. Besides, in this neighborhood, an unattended Maserati would be stripped for parts within an hour. That's not true. We're not all criminals in the Centro Storico. I didn't say criminals, I said pragmatists. There's a difference. He moved into the driver's seat and started the engine, which purred to life with that same expensive rumble from yesterday. I grew up 3 blocks from here, actually. Via Tribunali, above a pasticceria that's been closed for 15 years now. I turned to look at him in surprise. You grew up in the Centro Storico? You thought I was born in a palazzo in Posillipo? He pulled smoothly into traffic, driving along the narrow streets with the confidence of someone who knew every alley and shortcut. No, my family had money, but not the kind that bought mansions. My father ran a small shipping company. One boat, barely profitable. My brothers and I grew up sharing a bedroom the size of your studio apartment. Then how did you... I trailed off, not sure how to courteously inquire about how he'd gone from modest means to owning half the city. How did I become this? He motioned at himself, at the car, at the expensive watch on his wrist. Hard work, smart investments, and a willingness to operate in the spaces where others wouldn't. My father wanted to stay small, stay safe. I wanted more. So I took risks he wouldn't take, made deals he wouldn't make. Some of them paid off spectacularly. Others nearly destroyed me. But I survived, and I learned, and I built something bigger than he ever imagined. There was pride in the sound of his voice, but also something else. Defensiveness, maybe, as if he were still justifying his choices to a father who might not have approved. Does your family still live in Naples? I asked. My father died 5 years ago. Heart attack. My mother lives in a villa I bought her in Capri. She refuses to come back to the city, says it holds too many difficult memories. My brothers and I run the family business together, though together is a generous term. Mostly we tolerate each other and try not to let our mutual irritation interfere with profits. We pulled up in front of Pizzeria de Michele, and a valet immediately appeared to take the car. Carlo handed over the keys without a word, then came around to open my door. You brought your Maserati to a pizza restaurant? I asked. I bring my car everywhere. Why, should I have borrowed something more modest to impress you? His eyes glinted with amusement. Would you respect me more if I'd shown up in a Fiat like yours? My Fiat has character. Your Fiat has rust and a check engine light that's been on so long it's probably given up hope. But yes, it has character. That's one of the things I noticed about you. What else did you notice? The question came out before I could prevent it. Carlo's hand settled at the small of my back as he guided me toward the restaurant entrance. I noticed everything, he said quietly. That you wear your hair down, because you think it makes you look softer, less intimidating in business meetings. That you bite your lower lip when you're thinking. That your right hand is stained with pencil marks because you still sketch by hand, even though you finish everything digitally. That you're left-handed. That you take your coffee with milk and 1 sugar. And that when you smile, really smile, not the professional one you use with clients. You have a dimple on your left cheek. I stopped walking and turned to face him. How could you possibly know all that? From yesterday? I don't, he said evenly. I had someone follow you today. The words should have sent me running, should have outraged me. Instead, I heard myself ask, why? Because I wanted to know you. Because in 33 years, no one has ever refused me, something as insignificant as a parking spot. And I needed to understand why. He stepped closer. I caught the scent of his cologne. Dark, expensive, leather and cedar. What kind of woman, he continued softly, values a parking space, more than avoiding conflict, with someone like me? And the more I learned, he said, the more fascinating you became. This is insane, I said. But I didn't move away. Completely insane, he agreed. I should have forgotten you, the moment you drove off yesterday. Written you off, as an amusing story. His eyes held mine. But I couldn't stop thinking about you. About the way you looked at me, like I was just another man. Not Carlo Ferretti. About your stubbornness. Your fire. The fact that you built a business from nothing and are fighting to keep it alive. In one of the most competitive cities in Italy. How do you know I built it from nothing? I asked. Because I know everything, he said simply. I know you graduated from the Academy of Fine Arts. 6 years ago, I know you worked at 3 design firms. And hated all of them because they didn't respect your vision. I know you went independent 2 years ago, and that you've struggled ever since. Because you refused to sell your integrity for easy money. I know your rent is 3 months overdue. That you eat mostly pasta and vegetables because they're cheap. And that you haven't bought new clothes in over a year. Heat flooded my chest. Sharp, humiliating. He knew everything. Every failure, every compromise I'd refused to make, every fragile thread holding my life together. I should go, I said. My voice felt tight. This was a mistake. I turned, and his hand closed gently around my wrist. Don't, he said. Then quieter. Please. The word stopped me cold. Carlo Ferretti didn't strike me as a man who said please very often. I'm not telling you this to embarrass you, he said quietly. I'm telling you this because I understand. I've been where you are. I've eaten nothing but bread and olives because it was all I could afford. I've had creditors pounding on my door. I've lain awake at night wondering if I was insane for believing I could build something from nothing. His voice softened. And I want you to know this. I see you. I really see you. Not the polished professional version you show your clients, but the woman underneath, the one barely holding it together and refusing to give up. I looked up at him. This powerful, dangerous man who somehow understood my life with unsettling precision. Why do you care? I asked. Because stubbornness recognizes stubbornness, he said. Because I see in you the same refusal to quit. That drove me. And because... He paused, choosing his words. In all the years I've spent building my empire, I've been surrounded by people who want something from me. Money, access, protection, opportunity. Everyone wants something. His eyes held mine. But you? You didn't even know who I was. You fought me over a parking spot, like I was nobody special. Do you have any idea how rare that is? How refreshing. So I'm entertaining to you, I said. A novelty. No, he replied firmly. You're real. And real is something I haven't encountered in a very long time. He released my wrist, but didn't step away. Now, he said lightly, can we please go inside and eat pizza? I haven't eaten all day, and if I don't get food soon, I'm going to start making very poor decisions. Despite everything, the stalking, the invasion of privacy, the sheer audacity of this man. I laughed. Fine, I said. One pizza. But I'm paying for my own meal. Absolutely not. Carlo... Adriana, he interrupted calmly. I have more money than I could spend in 3 lifetimes. You're 3 months behind on rent. This is not a negotiation. I'm buying you dinner. Accept it gracefully. I don't accept charity. Good, he said. Neither do I. This isn't charity. This is a man taking a woman he's interested into dinner. Let me do this, without turning it into a battle, about pride and independence. He held out his hand. Please. There was that word again. Please. It disarmed me more than any command ever could. I took his hand. The restaurant was exactly as crowded as he'd predicted, a line of tourists and locals, stretching out the door. But Carlo walked straight past them. The hostess greeted him by name and led us to a table. In the back corner, quiet, private, shielded from the noise. You have a reserved table, I said. At a pizza restaurant. That doesn't take reservations? I have an understanding with the owner, he replied. Our grandfathers were friends. Sometimes old connections matter more than money. He didn't even glance at the menu, ordering for both of us in rapid Neapolitan dialect. I could barely follow. I blinked. What did you just order? 2 margaritas, a marinara, caprese salad, and fried zucchini flowers. Trust me. I don't know you well enough to trust you. Then trust that I know good food. I've been eating here since I was 6 years old. My father used to bring us here every Sunday after church. It was the one extravagance he'd allow himself. Pizza for the family, no matter how tight money was. His tone mellowed with the memory. He'd always order too much, insist we couldn't possibly waste food. My brothers and I would compete to see who could eat the most slices. I usually won. Somehow that doesn't surprise me, I said. You seem like someone who's accustomed to winning. I'm accustomed to refusing to lose. There's a difference. The waiter brought wine, house red, nothing fancy, and Carlo poured for both of us. Tell me about your business. What made you want to be a designer? You probably already know from your research. I know facts. I want to hear it from you, your version, not the data my people collected. I took a sip of wine, considering how much to reveal. My grandmother was a seamstress. She made wedding dresses, communion gowns, custom suits for important occasions. I grew up watching her turn fabric and thread into something beautiful. She said that design was the art of seeing what could be rather than what is, of taking something ordinary and making it extraordinary. And you wanted to do that. I wanted to create things that mattered, that made people feel something. When I worked at the design firms, everything was about trends and algorithms and what would get the most clicks. Nobody cared about craft or meaning. They just wanted content that would go viral and make quick money. I twisted my wine glass between my fingers. So I left. Started my own studio. Thought I could do it differently, do it right. Build a reputation for quality and integrity. But quality and integrity don't pay the bills as quickly as viral content does. No, they don't. I met his eyes. But I'm not giving up. I'll figure it out. I always do. That stubbornness again, Carlo said, but he was smiling. What if I told you I could solve all your problems? One phone call, and you'd have more clients than you could handle. Would you let me? No. Why not? Because then I'd owe you. And owing someone like you is dangerous. Someone like me, he repeated softly. You mean someone involved in businesses that operate in gray areas? Someone with a reputation for being ruthless. Someone your mother would warn you about. My mother's dead, I said. But yes, if she were alive, she'd absolutely warn me about you. Smart woman. You should listen to her hypothetical warnings. He leaned back as the waiter brought our food, pizza that emitted the aroma of incredible. My stomach actually growled audibly. But you won't listen, will you? Because you're curious. Because part of you wants to see what happens if you step into my world for a while. I'm not stepping into your world. I'm eating pizza. There's a difference. He moved a perfect slice of margarita onto my plate. Eat. Then we'll negotiate the terms of whatever this is becoming. The pizza was transcendent, simple, perfect, the kind of food that reminded you why Naples was Naples. We ate in peaceful quiet for several minutes, and I found myself relaxing despite the strangeness of the situation. Tell me something real, Carlo interjected abruptly. Something you've never told anyone else. Why would I do that? Because I want to know you, the real you, not the version you show the world, and because I'll tell you something real in return. Fair trade. I considered refusing, maintaining my boundaries, playing it safe. But something, the low, dim lighting, the good wind, this surprising expected intimacy made me reckless. I'm terrified, I owned up. Every single day I wake up terrified that I made a mistake, that I should have stayed at the design firm, swallowed my pride, taken the steady paycheck, that I'm going to fail and end up with nothing, that my stubbornness isn't strength, it's just foolish pride that's going to destroy me. Carlo was quiet for a moment, his dark eyes studying my face. Your turn, I said. Something real. I'm lonely, he said simply. I have money, power, respect. I have employees who follow my orders and business associates who court my favor. I have family who tolerate me and women who are available whenever I want them. But I don't have anyone who sees me, really sees me, the way you did yesterday when you looked at me like I was just some annoying man trying to steal your parking spot. Everyone else sees Carlo Ferretti, the reputation. You just saw me. The vulnerability in his admission caught me off guard. This wasn't the arrogant man from yesterday, or even the confident one who'd ordered me to dinner. This was someone who had everything except what actually mattered. That must be exhausting, I said quietly. Always performing. Always being Carlo Ferretti. It's the price of success in my world. You don't get to be human. You get to be effective. He refilled our wine glasses. But with you, I don't have to perform. You don't care about my money or my connections. You think I'm arrogant and invasive and probably dangerous. You're not wrong about any of that. But at least it's honest. This is the strangest dinner I've ever had, I said. Good. Strange is better than boring. I've had enough boring dinners to last several lifetimes. He picked up another slice of pizza. Now tell me about your grandmother, the seamstress. Is she still alive? No, she died 4 years ago. Cancer. The well-known pain lingered in my chest. She was the one who encouraged me to go to the academy, who told me I had talent worth developing. My parents thought art was impractical and that I should study something sensible, like accounting or law, but Nana believed in me. And when she died, I almost gave up. Thought maybe my parents were right, that I was being foolish. But then I realized that giving up would dishonor everything she taught me. So I kept going. For her. Carlo reached across the table and took my hand. The gesture should have felt presumptuous. We barely knew each other. But instead it felt grounding. Real. "She'd be proud of you," he said. "Struggling but refusing to quit is more honorable than succeeding by compromising your values." "You sound like you're speaking from experience." "I've done both. The compromising and the refusing to compromise. I can tell you which one lets you sleep at night." His thumb glided over the circles on the back of my hand. "But I've also learned that sometimes survival requires flexibility. There's a difference between compromising your values and being strategically practical." "Is that what you tell yourself? That your gray area business dealings are strategic practicality?" "Yes, and also that the world isn't black and white. The legal system is often just a reflection of who has power, not what's actually right or wrong. I operate in the spaces where the rules don't quite reach. Does that make me a criminal or a pragmatist? Depends on who's judging." "And how do you judge yourself?" Carlo was quiet for a moment, his dark eyes unreadable. "I judge myself by whether I keep my word. I make promises sparingly, but when I do, I keep them. I protect what's mine. I don't betray people who trust me. The law may see me as questionable, but my conscience is clear." "And am I yours to protect now?" I asked, not sure if I was challenging him or testing him. "I'm deciding." "Are you deciding to let me?" He leaned forward, his intensity focused entirely on me. "Because here's what I'm proposing, Adriana. I want to see you again. Not just once. Not just casual dinners where we pretend we're normal people. I want to see where this goes. You and me. Whatever this connection is." "That's insane. We just met yesterday." "I've made decisions with longer-lasting consequences in less time. I'm good at reading situations, and this one is clear. You're interesting, intelligent, stubborn, and real. Those qualities are rare enough individually. Together in one person, that's worth pursuing." "And what would pursuing look like?" I asked, my heart beating fast. "Because I'm not interested in being some rich man's temporary entertainment." "Good. Because I'm not interested in temporary. When I commit to something, I commit completely. If we do this, if you agree to see me, to explore whatever this is, then you're not some casual distraction. You're someone I'm choosing, someone I'm investing in." "Investing in," I repeated. "That sounds transactional." "Everything is transactional. The question is whether the transaction is fair, whether both parties gain respect and honesty in the exchange." He tightened his grip on my hand. "I can offer you things, not charity, but opportunities. Introductions to clients who have money and taste, security, protection, a life that's not defined by struggling to survive." "And what do you want in return?" "You. Your time. Your attention. Your honesty. I want someone who'll tell me when I'm being an arrogant bastard. Someone who'll fight with me over parking spots and dinner reservations and whatever else strikes your stubborn fancy. I want real Adriana. I want you, unfiltered and uncompromising." I should have said no. Should have recognized this for what it was. A powerful man used to getting what he wanted, making an offer that sounded generous but came with strings I couldn't even see yet. But God help me, I was tempted. Because when was the last time someone had looked at me the way Carlo was looking at me now? Like I was valuable. Like I was worth pursuing. Like my stubbornness was an asset rather than a character flaw. "I need to think about it," I uttered at last. "Fair enough. Take your time. I'm not going anywhere." He released my hand and signaled for the check. But while you're thinking, let me show you something. Show me what? My world. The parts that aren't dark and dangerous. The parts that might appeal to someone like you. He smiled. Come on. The night is young, and Naples is beautiful this time of year. We left the restaurant and walked along the narrow streets of the Centro Storico. Carlo pointed out buildings he owned, told stories about the neighborhood's history, and introduced me to shopkeepers who clearly knew and respected him. This wasn't the dangerous mob boss from rumors. This was a man who belonged to the city, who knew its flows and secrets. We ended up at Castel dell'Ovo, overlooking the bay. The castle was closed for the evening, but Carlo made a phone call, and somehow we were granted access to walk along the ramparts. The view was spectacular. Naples spread ahead of us, lights dazzling like twinkling fireflies, Vesuvius a dark shape against the night sky. I come here when I need to think, Carlo said, leaning against the stone wall. When business gets complicated, or family drama becomes overwhelming. Up here, everything feels manageable, like problems that seem insurmountable at street level shrink to proper perspective. It's beautiful, I owned up. It is. But it's not why I brought you here. He turned to face me fully. I brought you here because I wanted you to see me somewhere I'm not performing. Not Carlo Ferretti, the businessman. Just Carlo. A man who's tired of being alone. Who saw something in you that made him willing to risk rejection. Who's standing here hoping you'll say yes to seeing him again. The vulnerability in his tone undid me. This wasn't the arrogant man demanding I come to dinner. This was someone genuinely asking, hoping, risking. One moment, I spoke quietly, whispering. Let me get to know you, the real you, not the reputation. If it feels right, we'll see where it goes. If it doesn't, we part as, well, not friends exactly, but as two people who shared some good pizza. Carlo's smile was like a sunrise. One more date, I can work with that. He moved closer, and I knew he was going to kiss me. Should have stepped back, maintained boundaries, kept things professional and cautious. Instead, I leaned in. The kiss was nothing as I expected. Soft, almost tentative, like he was afraid I might bolt if he pushed too hard. His hand came up to cup my face, thumb circling along my cheekbone, and I felt something inside me shift. Some wall I'd built after too many disappointments began to crack. When we finally broke apart, both breathing harder, Carlo rested his brow pressed to mine. You're going to destroy me, he spoke quietly. I can feel it. You're going to get under my skin and into my head and make me want things I've convinced myself I don't need. Good, I said, astonishing myself with my boldness. You deserve to want things, to be human instead of just effective. He laughed, the sound low and intimate. See? This is what I'm talking about. You say things like that and I'm lost. Completely lost. We're both lost then, because I have no idea what I'm doing here with you. Then let's figure it out together. He pulled back, his dark eyes seeking my face. Come on, I'll take you home. And tomorrow, I'm taking you somewhere special. Wear comfortable shoes. Tomorrow? We just agreed to one more date. You're already planning it? I told you. When I commit to something, I commit completely. I'm not letting you back out now. But the way he said it, not as a command but as a promise, made it sound less like a warning and more like something I wanted to hear. Carlo drove me home along empty streets, his hand occasionally finding mine on the center console. We didn't talk much. There was a peaceful quiet between us which seemed earned somehow, despite having known each other for less than 48 hours. When we pulled up in front of my building, he got out and opened my door, then walked me to the entrance. Thank you for dinner, I said, sensing it suddenly and abruptly. And for the castle, and for not being completely terrifying. I can be terrifying when necessary, Carlo said with a slight smile. But not with you. Never with you. He brushed a tress of hair from my face. Sleep well, Adriana. I'll pick you up at 10 tomorrow morning. You still haven't told me where we're going. That's because it's a surprise. Do you trust me? Absolutely not. Smart woman. He kissed my forehead, a gesture so unexpectedly tender it made my cheer take, but come anyway. I watched him drive away, then climbed the 4 flights to my apartment, my mind spinning with everything that had happened. I had just agreed to see Carlo Ferretti again. I had kissed him. I was potentially entering a relationship with a man who operated in moral gray areas and had people following me to gather information. I should have been terrified. Instead, I felt exhilarated. My phone rang softly, as I was getting ready for bed. A text from an unknown number, different from the one I'd blocked yesterday. Unknown, don't block this one. I need to contact you. Me. How many phone numbers do you have? CF. Enough. Did you have a good evening? Me. You were there. You know I did. CF. I know I didn't intend to ensure you felt the same. Sometimes people enjoy themselves in the moment, but later regret it. Me. I don't regret it. But ask me again after whatever mysterious adventure you have planned for tomorrow. CF. It's not mysterious. It's perfect. You'll see. Sleep well, Bella. Bella. Beautiful. The relaxed endearment made me smile despite myself. I fell asleep with my phone in my hand, and I dreamed of dark eyes and dangerous promises. The next morning, I was ready at 9:30, wearing jeans and comfortable sneakers as instructed. I had no idea where we were going, but I'd learned that Carlo didn't do anything halfway. Whatever he had planned would be memorable. He arrived exactly at 10, looking unfairly attractive in dark jeans and a navy Henley that showed off his athletic build. He held 2 paper cups of coffee and a bag with the aroma of fresh cornetti from the bakery around the corner. Breakfast, he announced, handing me both. We have a drive ahead of us. Where are we going? You'll see, come on. The drive took us out of Naples, up into the hills, alternating paths that offered spectacular views of the coast. Carlo navigated with easy confidence, one hand on the wheel, occasionally pointing out landmarks or telling stories about the region. My father used to bring us up here when we were kids, he said, as we ascended further. He'd rent a small house for a week every summer, all he could afford, and we'd spend the time hiking and swimming and eating too much. Those were good days, before everything got complicated. When did it get complicated? When I got old enough to understand what my father's small shipping business was actually shipping. When I realized the men who came to our house late at night weren't just business partners. When I had to choose between following the safe, small path he wanted for me or taking risks to build something bigger. He glanced at me. I chose bigger. He never quite forgave me for that. Do you regret it? Sometimes. Usually, at 3 a.m. when I can't sleep, I'm thinking about all the choices that brought me here. But then morning comes, and I remember why I made those choices. The freedom. The power to protect what's mine. The ability to build something that will outlast me. He held my hand. And now, the chance to share it with someone who might actually understand. We turned onto a narrow private road that led to a villa perched on the hillside. It was beautiful, but not ostentatious. Stone and stucco with terracotta tile roofs, surrounded by olive groves and gardens that looked like they'd been there for centuries. This is yours? I asked as we pulled up. This is mine. I bought it 3 years ago, had it restored. I come here when I need to escape the city. To think. To remember who I am underneath all the Carlo Ferretti performance. He got out and came around to open my door. I've never brought anyone here before. You're the first. The significance of that admission wasn't lost on me. This wasn't just a date. This was him showing me something private, something real. Inside, the villa was furnished simply but elegantly. Comfortable furniture, broad windows that lit in abundant light, artwork that looked original and carefully chosen. There was a large kitchen with commercial-grade appliances, a living room with a fireplace, and glass doors that opened onto a terrace with views that took my breath away. Carlo, this is... I struggled for words. It's beautiful. Wait until you see the studio. He took my hand and led me down a hallway to a door I hadn't noticed. Behind it was a large, light-filled room with hardwood floors, blank walls, and windows on 3 sides. "It's empty right now," he said quietly. "I bought the villa thinking I'd do something with the space, but I never figured out what. And then yesterday, when I was researching you, learning about your work, I thought this could be her studio. A place to create without distractions, without financial pressure, a place that's hers." I stared at him, not quite believing what I was hearing. "You want to give me this?" "I want to offer it," he corrected gently. "No strings. You don't have to decide now. But if you want it, if you decide this thing between us is worth exploring, then this space is yours. To work in, to create in, to build your business from. I'll handle the logistics. You handle the art." "Carlo, I can't accept this," I said. "It's too much. We barely know each other. We know each other better than most people who've been together for months," he replied calmly. "You know I'm arrogant, invasive, and probably bad for you. I know you're stubborn, talented, and barely surviving financially. Those are facts." He stepped closer. "What we're figuring out is whether the connection between us is strong enough to build something on." His hands rose, framing my face. Gentle, steady. "I'm not asking you to move in with me, or marry me, or commit to anything permanent. I'm asking if you want a place to work, a chance to focus on your art, without worrying about rent. That's all." "That's not all," I said softly. "That's everything. That's security. Freedom. That's—" "And what you deserve," he interrupted. "What you've earned by refusing to compromise yourself." His gaze didn't waver. "Let me give you this, Adriana. Not as payment for your time, not for your affection, but because I have resources you need, and using them costs me nothing, while giving you relief. Why wouldn't I do that? Because it came with expectations. Because nothing was ever truly free. Because accepting help from Carlo Ferretti meant becoming entangled with him in ways I couldn't yet predict. But also because he was right. This was exactly what I needed, what I'd been fighting to create on my own, and he was offering it. Openly, without visible strings. "I need time to think," I said. Again. "Take all the time you need," he replied. "The villa isn't going anywhere. Neither am I." He pressed the access key into my palm. "This is yours regardless. Come here whenever you want. Use the space. See if it inspires you. Maybe that will help you decide." We spent the rest of the day at the villa. Carlo made lunch. Pasta with fresh tomatoes and basil from the garden. Simple, perfect. We ate on the terrace, talking about everything. He told me about his brothers, about the strange balance of running a family business, where everyone had opinions, but only one person carried the weight of final decisions. I told him about my failed relationships, about the pattern of choosing men who wanted to fix me or save me, but never truly saw me as an equal. And for the first time in a long while, it felt like I wasn't explaining myself. I was simply being understood. "I don't want to fix you," Carlo said, refilling our wine glasses. "You're not broken. You're just temporarily resource-constrained. There's a difference." I huffed a quiet laugh. "Most men see a struggling artist and either want to rescue her or run away. You're offering me a studio and acting like it's nothing. Because to me, it is nothing," he said calmly. "I own more properties than I can keep track of. This villa sits empty, 11 months out of the year. Offering you one room costs me nothing, and potentially gives you everything. Why wouldn't I do that?" He leaned back, studying me. "Unless," he added, "you think there are hidden strings, hidden expectations. Aren't there always?" "With most people, yes," he said. "But I'm trying to be different with you. I'm trying to be honest." He reached across the table and took my hand. "So let me be completely transparent. Yes, I want you. Yes, I hope this becomes something serious. Yes, I'm investing time and resources because I'm interested in you. But the studio?" He squeezed my hand gently. "That's not contingent on you sleeping with me, or committing to me, or doing anything for me, except creating good work. If you decide tomorrow that you're not interested in me romantically, the studio is still yours. I won't take it back. I won't guilt you. My word." I studied his face, searching for cracks, for manipulation, for calculation. But all I saw was sincerity, and somehow that was more frightening. "Why me?" I asked softly. "You could have anyone. Why pursue someone who's broke, stubborn, and comes with no advantages whatsoever?" "Because everyone else does come with advantages," he replied. "Connections, family money, social status. They're with me because of what I can do for them, what doors I can open. You didn't even know who I was. You fought me over a parking spot, like I was just some annoying man, in an expensive car. That's not just refreshing, he said quietly. That's intoxicating. So I'm still a novelty, I said. Someone different from your usual type. No, his voice was firm. You're real, in a world full of performance, and I'm selfish enough to want that for myself. He stood, pulling me gently to my feet. Come on, he said. There's something else I want to show you. He led me through the olive groves, behind the villa, to a small structure I hadn't noticed before. A converted barn, with wide windows and a chimney. Inside was a workshop. Woodworking tools lined the walls. Half-finished furniture stood in careful rows. Sawdust coated every surface. This is my space, Carlo said, where I come when I need to work with my hands. To create something tangible, instead of managing, negotiating, and playing politics. I walked slowly through the room, taking in a table, a set of chairs, a beautifully crafted bookshelf. The craftsmanship was undeniable. You made these? I asked. My father taught me. Said every man should know how to build things, not just buy them. It's one of the few lessons from him I actually valued. He ran his hand along the table's surface. When I'm here, working with wood, I'm not Carlo Ferretti. I'm just Carlo, the kid from Via Tribunali who learned to measure twice and cut once, who understands that some things can't be rushed, that quality takes time. The vulnerability in showing me this space, his private retreat, his creative outlet, touched something heartwarming inside my chest. This wasn't the powerful businessman or the dangerous man with questionable connections. This was someone who needed to create, just like I did. Someone who understood that making things with your hands fed your soul in ways that making money never could. Thank you for showing me this, whispered. I wanted you to see that I understand. What it means to need to create. To have that drive that doesn't make financial sense but makes every other kind of sense. He moved closer. We're not that different, Adriana. We both came from nothing. We both built something from stubbornness and refusal to quit. The only difference is that I compromised more along the way, operated in darker spaces. But the core drive, that's the same. You're trying to seduce me with philosophical compatibility, I said, but I was smiling. Is it working? Maybe. I moved closer, closing the distance between us. Or maybe I'm just enjoying getting to know the real you, the one who makes furniture and eats too much pizza and brings women to secret villas. Just one woman. You're the only one who's been here. His hands found my waist, pulling me against him. And I'm hoping you'll come back, often, maybe even stay sometimes. No pressure, just an open invitation. You're moving very fast. I'm 33 years old. I've wasted enough time on things and people that didn't matter. When I find something, someone, who does matter, I don't see the point in playing it slow and cautious. Life is short. We should spend it with people who make us feel alive. And I make you feel alive? You make me feel human, which is better. He leaned down, his lip grazing mine. Now stop overthinking and kiss me. So I did. And this kiss was different from the one at the castle. Deeper, more urgent, fueled by a rowing connection and the privacy of this space where no one could see us. His hands moved to my hair. Mine found his shoulders. And for a few perfect minutes, nothing existed except this. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Carlo rested his brow pressed to mine. Stay for dinner, he said. Stay the night. Not in my bed, unless you want to. But that's not what I'm asking. Just stay. Let me cook for you. Let us talk more. Let this day last a little longer. Every rational voice in my head screamed that I should go home. Spending the night at Carlo Ferretti's private villa was a terrible idea. That I was moving too fast, getting in too deep, risking too much. But the voice that won out was the one that said, when was the last time you felt this alive? This wanted? This seen? Okay, I said. I'll stay for dinner. Good. He smiled, that transforming grin that lit up his face, making him look younger and less dangerous. I'm making ossobuco, my mother's recipe. It takes hours, which means you're stuck with me for the evening. Somehow I think I'll survive. We spent the rest of the afternoon in comfortable companionship. Carlo cooked while I explored the villa, eventually settling in the empty studio with my sketchbook. Ideas poured in a way they hadn't in months. Designs for the hotel rebrand, personal projects I'd been neglecting, fresh ideas that excited me. The light was perfect, the space was perfect, and I could feel my creativity awakening in a way it hadn't since before my financial difficulties had consumed all my energy. Carlo appeared in the doorway, drying his hands on a dish towel. Dinner in 30 minutes. How's it going in here? I looked up from my sketchbook, realizing I'd been working for over 2 hours without noticing the time passing. It's perfect. This space is absolutely perfect. Good. Then it's yours. No more discussion, no more hesitation. This is your studio now. He moved closer, looking at my sketches. These are beautiful. Is this for the hotel project? Some of them. Others are just ideas. Things I've been wanting to explore but haven't had the time or mental space for. Now you have both, time and space. Use them. He held out his hand. Come on, let's eat before the risotto gets cold. Dinner was spectacular. Ossobuco that fell off the bone, risotto alla Milanese that was perfectly creamy, and vegetables from the garden. We ate by candlelight on the terrace while the sun dipped below the horizon over a sky tinged with colors, the sky with shades of amber and rose. Tell me something you've never told anyone, Carlo said, echoing his request from the night before. Something new. I thought about it, drinking my wine. I'm afraid I'm going to wake up tomorrow and realize this was all a dream. That you're not real. This villa isn't real. And I'm still just struggling to survive in my tiny apartment. I'm very real, Carlo assured me. And you're not dreaming, though I understand the impulse to question it. This has been a strange few days. Strange doesn't begin to cover it. 48 hours ago, I was fighting you over a parking spot. Now I'm eating ossobuco at your private villa and contemplating accepting a studio space that would change my entire life. Life changes fast when you let it, when you stop being so careful and controlled and allow yourself to take risks. He refilled our wine glasses. My turn for something new. I haven't felt this relaxed in years. Usually I'm calculating, strategizing, thinking 3 moves ahead. But with you, I can just be. It's unsettling and wonderful in equal measure. Unsettling? Because I don't know where this goes. I can't control it or manage it or predict the outcome. That's new for me. Uncomfortable, but also exciting. We finished dinner and moved inside as the evening cooled. Carlo lit a fire in the living room fireplace and sat down on the sofa with more wine, talking about everything. Childhoods, dreams, fears, failures. He told me about deals that had gone wrong, about the violence he'd witnessed and occasionally participated in, about the burden of running an organization where people's livelihoods depended on his decisions. Do you ever want to just walk away? I asked. Leave the family business? Start over somewhere new where no one knows Carlo Ferretti? Every day, he admitted. But I can't. Too many people depend on me. My brothers aren't capable of running things alone. They're excellent at their specific roles but lack the vision for the bigger picture. The people who work for us, the families who rely on our businesses for their income, they'd suffer if I just walked away. So I stay. I do what needs to be done. And I look for small moments of peace where I can. Like this villa. And now, like you. He tucked a strand of hair behind my ear. You're my moment of peace, Adriana. In a life that's mostly chaos and calculation, you're the one thing that feels simple and right. I don't feel simple. I feel complicated and confused and like I'm making decisions I'll probably regret. Good decisions usually feel that way. It's the bad ones that feel easy and obvious. He stood, holding out his hand. "Come on, I'll show you the guest room. You must be exhausted." The guest room was beautiful. A large bed with soft linens, an ensuite bathroom, and windows that would let in the dawn's glow. Carlo remained in the doorway, clearly not wanting to leave, but respecting the boundaries we'd established. "Thank you for today," I said. "For sharing this place with me, for dinner, for everything. Thank you for staying, for giving us, a chance." He moved closer, cupping my face. "I know I'm moving fast. I know this is probably overwhelming, but I meant what I said. I'm not letting you back out. Not now that I know what this could be." And what could it be? Everything, if we let it. He kissed me softly, a promise rather than a demand. "Sleep well, Bella. I'll make breakfast in the morning." After he left, I lay in the comfortable bed, staring at the ceiling and attempting to make sense of all that had happened in the past 2 days. I had gone from struggling designer to, what? Girlfriend of a mafia boss? Artist with a private studio? A woman who was falling dangerously fast for a man who operated in moral gray areas and made her feel more alive than she had in years? All of the above, apparently. My phone chimed with a text. "Carlo, are you awake?" Me. "Yes. Too much to process to sleep." Carlo. "Same. I'm down the hall if you want to talk. Or if you just want company. No expectations. Just offering." I should have stayed in bed. Should have maintained the boundaries. Instead, I found myself padding down the hallway in borrowed pajamas to the master bedroom, where light shone from under the door. Carlo opened it at my knock, wearing only sleep pants, his chest bare, and showing the kind of lean muscle that came from actual physical work rather than just gym time. He looked surprised but pleased to see me. "Can't sleep?" he asked. "Can't stop thinking. About everything. About this." I motioned indistinctly between us. "About whether I'm being incredibly stupid or incredibly brave." "Both, probably. Come here." He pulled me into the room and onto the bed, sitting against the headboard with me tucked against his side. "What are you thinking about most?" "About how this ends, because it has to end eventually, right? You're Carlo Ferretti, I'm nobody. This is a novelty that will wear off, and then what?" "You keep saying you're nobody. You need to stop that." His arm closed tightly around me. "You're Adriana Romano. You're talented and stubborn and real. Those qualities don't diminish just because you don't have money or connections. If anything, they're more impressive because you achieved what you have without advantages. But your world, the people you associate with, they're not going to accept me. I don't come from the right family. I don't have the right connections. I'm going to embarrass you. First of all, my world can go to hell. I didn't build everything I have just to let other people dictate who I can be with. Second, you couldn't embarrass me if you tried. You're authentic, which is rarer and more valuable than any pedigree." He tilted my face up to look at him. "And third, this isn't ending. Not in a week, not in a month. I'm in this for as long as you'll have me. You can't know that. We barely know each other. I know enough. I know you make me laugh. I know you challenge me. I know that for the first time in years, I'm excited to wake up in the morning because I get to talk to you. That's enough to build on. You're insane. Probably. But you're here anyway, in my bedroom, in my arms, instead of safely in the guest room maintaining appropriate boundaries. What does that tell you?" It told me I was just as insane as he was, just as willing to take this risk to see where it led, consequences be damned. "It tells me I'm terrible at self-preservation," I said. "Good. Self-preservation is overrated." He shifted, pulling me closer. "Stay here tonight. Sleep next to me. Nothing more, just sleep. I want to know what it feels like to wake up with you here." "Carlo, I know. Too fast. Too intense. Too everything. But I'm done pretending to be cautious when everything in me wants to be reckless with you. Stay. Please." That word again. Please. The one that undid all my defenses. Okay, spoke quietly. I'll stay. We settled under the covers, his arms around me, my head on his chest. I could hear his heartbeat. Steady, strong, real. This was real. Crazy, impossible, and probably a terrible idea, but real. Adriana. Carlo's voice was quiet in the darkness. I'm not going to hurt you. I know my reputation. I know what people say about men like me. But I'm not going to use you or discard you or make you regret this. My word on that. Okay. You believe me? I'm choosing to believe you. There's a difference. That's fair. He pressed a kiss to the top of my head. Sleep, Bella. Tomorrow we'll figure out the rest. I fell asleep in his arms, and for the first time in years I felt safe. Protected. Chosen. When I woke the next morning, the sun was shining through the windows, and Carlo was gone. I found a note on the pillow. Making breakfast. Come down when you're ready. Take your time. Satas. I showered in the ensuite bathroom, stocked with expensive toiletries and everything I could need, and dressed in yesterday's clothes. When I made my way downstairs, I found Carlo in the kitchen, cooking what looked like enough food to feed 10 people. You're awake, he said, smiling. Perfect timing. Coffee's ready and breakfast will be done in 5 minutes. You really like to feed people, don't you? My father's influence. He believed that sharing food was how you showed love. I might have internalized that more than I realized. He plated eggs, bacon, fresh bread, and fruit. Eat. Then I need to take you back to the city. I have meetings this afternoon that I can't cancel. Back to reality, I said, feeling a stab of disappointment. Back to reality, he agreed. But this isn't over. Tonight I'm taking you to an art opening. One of my business associates is a collector. He's opening a new gallery and wants me there. Come with me. Let me show you off. Show me off? I'm not some trophy. No. You're the woman I'm choosing. There's a difference. And I want people to see that Carlo Ferretti has found someone worth his time. Someone real. He sat down across from me. Also, there will be potential clients there. People with money who appreciate good design. Consider it networking. You're mixing business and personal. I'm using my resources to help someone I care about, he replied. If that benefits us both, where's the harm? I didn't have an answer. The logic made sense, even if it left me uneasy. What time? I asked. I'll pick you up at 7. Wear something elegant but not too formal. He paused, then reached across the table to take my hand. And Adriana, don't overthink this. Just enjoy it. Let me help you. Let yourself have something good. For once, the drive back to Naples felt different. From the trip up. Smoother, more settled. Carlo held my hand whenever he wasn't shifting gears, glancing at me occasionally with an expression I couldn't quite place. Satisfaction, maybe. Contentment, like he'd accomplished something important. When we pulled up outside my building, he insisted on walking me to my door, despite my protests. I want to, he said simply. Let me be old-fashioned occasionally. At my door, he kissed me goodbye, slow and deep enough to leave my knees unsteady. Then he pressed something into my palm. A key. This is yours now, he said firmly. The villa, the studio, the quiet, all of it. Carlo, I can't. You can, and you will, he said calmly. Stop arguing with me about this. I have more money than I know what to do with. Let me use some of it to make your life easier. It costs me nothing. It gives you freedom. Why would you refuse that? Because I'm not used to accepting help. I know, he said softly. That's one of the things I like about you. But sometimes accepting help isn't weakness. It's strategy. Use the resources available to you so you can focus on what matters. In this case, your art. He kissed my forehead. 7 tonight, he said. Be ready. After he left, I stood alone in my small apartment, feeling like I'd just returned from another planet. The contrast between the villa's open spaces and my compact studio was almost comical. But this was my reality, at least for now. I spent the afternoon working on the hotel proposal, incorporating ideas that had come to me. In the villa's studio, the work flowed in a way it hadn't in months. By 5 o'clock, I had something I was genuinely proud of. Work that showcased my talent, without sacrificing my artistic point of view. At 6:30, I began getting ready for the gallery opening. I owned exactly one dress that could be described as elegant. A simple black sheath I'd bought years ago for job interviews. It wasn't remarkable, but it would do. Carlo arrived precisely at 7. The look on his face, when he saw me, that alone, was worth every flicker of doubt. "You look beautiful," he said simply. Perfect. The gallery was in an upscale neighborhood, a converted warehouse with soaring ceilings and white walls displaying contemporary art that I recognized as both expensive and significant. Carlo showed me around the crowd with a possessive hand on my lower back, introducing me to what appeared to be half of Naples' cultural elite. "This is Adriana Romano," he would say. "An exceptional designer. You should see her work. Not my date, or my girlfriend. An exceptional designer." He positioned me as a professional first, which I appreciated more than he probably realized. We were examining a particularly striking abstract piece when a woman's voice rang out over the crowd. "Carlo Ferretti, I heard you were bringing a date tonight. I had to see for myself." I turned to find a stunning woman in her early 30s, blonde and polished in the way that suggested old money and expensive maintenance. She looked at me with barely concealed disdain. "Bianca," Carlo said, his tone carefully neutral. "I didn't know you'd be here." "Paolo invited me. He thought I'd appreciate the collection." Heron topped meeked over me. "So this is the mysterious woman everyone's been talking about. The one who fought you over a parking spot? How charming." "Adriana, this is Bianca Conti," Carlo said. "An old acquaintance." "Old girlfriend," Bianca corrected. "We dated for nearly a year, before Carlo decided he preferred being alone to being with me." The awkwardness was clearly felt. I started to excuse myself, but Carlo's grip firmed on my waist. "Bianca and I dated briefly 3 years ago," Carlo said calmly. "It didn't work out. We wanted different things." "You mean I wanted commitment, and you wanted to play the field," Bianca said, her smile cutting. "But I see you've changed your tune. Is Carlo Ferretti actually bringing a date to a public event? That's headline news. She must be very special." "She is," Carlo said simply. "Now if you'll excuse us—" "Wait, I'm curious." Bianca moved closer, examining me as if I were one of the art pieces. "What do you do, Adriana? Allow me guess. Model? Actress? The usual type Carlo goes for." "I'm a designer," I said, keeping my speech level. "Graphic and brand design." "How interesting. And where did you study?" "The Academy of Fine Arts here in Naples." "Lovely. And your family? Are they in the arts as well?" It was a trap, a way to determine my social class, my connections, my worthiness. Carlo clearly recognized it too, but the look on his face stiffened. "Bianca, this interrogation is tedious. Adriana doesn't need to prove herself to you or anyone else here." "I'm just making conversation," Bianca said sweetly. "Getting to know the woman who's captured Carlo Ferretti's attention. That's no small feat. Most of us barely managed to hold it. For a few months. Maybe that says more about you than it does about Carlo," I replied, surprising even myself. "If you couldn't hold his attention, perhaps you weren't as interesting as you thought." Bianca's eyes narrowed. "Careful, dear. You don't know who you're dealing with. Neither do you." Carlo's voice cut in, low, controlled, dangerous. "Adriana is under my protection," he said. "Which means if you have a problem with her, you have a problem with me. I suggest you move along, Bianca, before this becomes unpleasant." The threat was clear, undeniable. Bianca's face flushed with anger, but she pasted on a smile. "Of course. I didn't mean to cause trouble. Enjoy the opening." She swept away, leaving tension in her wake. "I'm sorry about that," Carlo said quietly. Once she was gone, "Bianca has never handled rejection well. I should have warned you. She might be here." "It's fine," I said, taking a breath. "I can handle jealous ex-girlfriends." Then more carefully, "Though I am curious, how many of your exes am I going to encounter at these events?" "Not many," he replied. "I haven't dated seriously in years. Bianca was the last relationship that came close to serious, and even that was more convenience than connection." He guided me toward a quieter corner of the gallery. But I should be honest with you, he continued. My history is complicated. There have been women, many women, if I'm being truthful, but none of them mattered. None of them was you. That sounds like a line. It isn't, he said simply. I've had relationships that were transactional, mutually beneficial arrangements, with no emotional investment. I've had brief affairs with women who wanted the status of being seen with me. And I've had exactly one relationship. That felt real. It ended 3 years ago, when I realized we were together, out of habit. Not genuine feeling. He took my hands. But this, what I feel with you, is different. It's real. It's intense. And it's probably too much, too soon. But it's genuine. I need you to know that. I believe you, I said softly. But you need to understand, this is frightening for me. Your world. These people, the expectations, the judgments. It's overwhelming. I know, he said. And if it ever becomes too much, tell me, we'll find another way. He pulled me closer. But don't let people like Bianca make you doubt yourself. You belong here. You're talented, intelligent, and you have every right to be in this room with these people. I hesitated. Even though I don't come from money? I asked. Even though my family isn't connected? Especially because of that. You earned your place through talent and hard work rather than inheriting it. That's worth more. He kissed my temple. Now come on. Let me introduce you to Paolo. He's the collector I mentioned, the one who might be interested in your work. The rest of the evening developed in a whirlwind of introductions and conversations. Paolo Santoro turned out to be a gregarious man in his 50s who loved art and had the money to indulge that passion. He looked at my portfolio, which Carlo had somehow acquired and had on his phone, with genuine interest. This is excellent work, Paolo said, scrolling through images. Sophisticated but accessible. Exactly what we need for the hotel rebrand I'm planning. Can you come to my office next week? I'd like to discuss hiring you for the project. I tried not to look too eager. Of course, I'd be happy to. Carlo has good taste, Paolo said with a smile. In art and apparently in women. You're very talented, Adriana. I look forward to working with you. As we left the gallery hours later, I felt like I was floating. A potential major client. Validation from someone respected in the industry. And all because Carlo had taken me here, had introduced me, had positioned me as someone worth knowing. Thank you, I said once we were in the car. For tonight, for introducing me to Paolo, for making me feel like I belonged there. You did belong there. I just made sure people noticed. He took my hand. And now I'm taking you back to my apartment. We need to talk. That sounds ominous. Not ominous, just honest. There are things you should know about me, about my business, about what being with me means. He glanced at me. And you need to decide if that's something you can accept. Carlo's apartment was in Chiaia, overlooking the bay. It was refined but surprisingly lived in. Books stacked on tables, artwork that looked personally chosen rather than decorator selected. A sense that someone actually inhabited the space rather than just using it as a showpiece. He poured us both wine and motioned to the sofa. Sit. Let me be completely honest with you about who I am and what I do. I sat, my heart beating fast. This was the moment. The full truth about Carlo Ferretti's business dealings, the gray areas he'd mentioned, the reasons people murmured his name quietly with a mixture of respect and fear. My family's shipping business is legitimate, he began. We move commercial goods, electronics, textiles, machinery, through established legal channels. That business generates steady, reportable income and employs over 200 people. It's the foundation of everything else. And everything else? Everything else operates in spaces where the law is ambiguous. We facilitate transactions between parties who prefer discretion. We move goods that might not have perfect paperwork, but aren't strictly illegal. We provide security and logistics for people who can't or won't use traditional channels. He met my eyes. I'm not dealing drugs. I'm not trafficking people. I'm not involved in anything that directly harms innocents. But I am operating outside the strict boundaries of legal commerce. Why? If the legitimate business is successful, why risk the illegal stuff? Because the legitimate business has limits. Growth is slow, profits are modest, and there are people in my family, in my organization, who need opportunities that legal channels don't provide. Ex-convicts who can't get traditional jobs, people with skills but no papers, families who need income and can't wait for the slow grind of legitimate employment. He leaned forward. I'm not justifying it, I'm explaining it. This is who I am. This is what I do. And the violence? The rumors about people who cross you? Some of those rumors are true. I've hurt people who threatened me or mine. I've made examples of people who stole from me or betrayed my trust. I'm not proud of it, but I'm not ashamed either. In my world, reputation is currency. If people think you're soft, they take advantage. So yes, I've been ruthless when necessary. The honesty was simultaneously refreshing and terrifying. Most people would have softened the truth, made themselves sound more sympathetic. Carlo was giving it to me straight. Why are you telling me all this? I asked. You could have kept it vague. Let me discover it gradually. Because you deserve to know what you're getting into. And because if we're going to do this, really do this, I need you to accept me as I am, not some sanitized version. The real me, with all the complications and moral ambiguities. He took my hands. I won't lie to you, Adriana. I won't pretend to be something I'm not. But I also need you to decide if this is something you can live with. I thought about it. Really thought about it. Carlo Ferretti was involved in illegal activities. He'd hurt people. He operated outside the law and justified it through his own moral framework. Any sensible woman would walk away. But I also thought about the man who'd cooked me dinner, who'd shared his private villa, who'd shown me his woodworking, and talked about his dead father with genuine emotion. The man who believed in my talent, who offered me opportunities without expecting anything in return, who made me feel noticed in ways I'd never experienced before. I'm not naive, I uttered at last. I know what you're telling me, and I know I should probably be smart and walk away, but... But I don't want to. I want to see where this goes. I want to be with you, even knowing what you are. Does that make me foolish? It makes you brave. Or reckless. Maybe both. He pulled me closer. But it also makes me happier than I've been in years. I was prepared for you to leave. Expected it, actually. The fact that you're staying, that you're choosing this, choosing me, means everything. I have conditions, I said. Name them. First, you don't lie to me, ever. If I ask a direct question, you give me a direct answer. Even if the answer is, I can't tell you that for your own safety. Agreed. Second, you don't involve me in the illegal stuff. I don't want to know details. Don't want to be present for anything questionable. I'll accept that it's part of your life, but I won't participate. Also agreed. I would never put you in that position. Third, if this ever puts me or my career at risk, if being with you brings legal trouble or destroys my professional reputation, we end it. Immediately. No argument. Carlo's jaw stiffened, but he nodded. If you're ever at risk because of me, I'll remove myself from your life. You have my word. Okay then. I took a breath. I'm in. For real this time. Not just one more date or seeing where things go. I'm choosing this. Choosing you. The smile that broke across his face was like a sunrise. He pulled me into his arms, kissing me with a strength that caught my breath. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, he rested his brow pressed to mine. You won't regret this, he promised. I'll make sure of it. I might regret it, I said honestly, but I'm doing it anyway. We spent the rest of the night talking about his family, my dreams, and what a relationship between us would actually look like. Carlo was clear about his expectations. He wanted me to move into the villa, at least part-time, so I could use the studio, and we could spend more time together. He wanted to be seen publicly with me, to make it clear that I was his. He wanted to help my career through introductions and opportunities, but only if I was comfortable with it. "I'm not trying to control you," he said. "But I'm also not good at halfway measures. If we're together, I want to be really together. Not just casual dating where we see each other occasionally. I want you in my life fully." That's intense. I know, too intense? Maybe, but I think I like it. I've spent too long with men who didn't care enough. Maybe intense is what I need. I stayed that night in his apartment, in his bed, and this time we didn't stop at kissing. Being with Carlo was like everything else about him. Intense, passionate, overwhelming in the best possible way. He was attentive and demanding in equal measure, learning what I liked and pushing me to places I hadn't known I could go. Afterward, lying entwined in his sheets, I was simultaneously satisfied and somewhat alarmed by the intensity of what I was feeling. "You're overthinking again," Carlo murmured against my hair. "I can practically hear your thoughts." "I'm just processing. This is a lot." "It is, but good things usually are." He pulled me closer. "Sleep, Bella. We'll figure out the rest in the morning." The next few weeks fell into a pattern. I worked from the villa studio most days, the space and quiet allowing my creativity to blossom in ways it hadn't in years. The hotel proposal I'd been working on was accepted, and suddenly I had my first major client in over a year. Paolo Santoro hired me for his hotel rebrand, and word of mouth brought in 2 more potential clients. Carlo and I spent most evenings together, either at his apartment or the villa. We fell into an easy domesticity, cooking together, working in parallel spaces, talking about our days. He taught me about wine and introduced me to his favorite restaurants. I taught him about design principles and forced him to visit art exhibitions he wouldn't have otherwise seen. His family was another matter. Meeting his brothers was intimidating. Luca and Marco Ferretti were as imposing as Carlo, though less polished. They treated me with careful politeness, clearly waiting to see if I would last before investing in getting to know me. His mother was worse. Maria Ferretti made it clear that she'd expected Carlo to marry someone from a comparable family, someone with connections and status. I was a disappointment, though she was too polite to say it directly. "Give her time," Carlo said, following a notably awkward Sunday lunch. "She'll come around once she sees we're serious. And if she doesn't, then she doesn't. I'm not choosing a partner based on my mother's approval. I'm 33 years old. I'll make my own decisions." Yet I noticed the tension it caused him, the way he tried to balance his mother's expectations with his own desires. It was another note that being with Carlo meant entering a complicated world with rules and expectations I didn't fully understand. One night, about 6 weeks after the parking spot confrontation that had started everything, Carlo came home to the villa looking more serious than usual. I was working in the studio, finalizing designs for Paolo's hotel, and I knew immediately something was wrong. "We need to talk." He felt a pit in my stomach. "Those 4 words, never good." "What happened?" I asked, setting down my stylus. "Nothing bad. Just a decision we need to make together." He sat down across from me. "I'm being pressured by some business associates to formalize our relationship, to get engaged." My heart stopped. "Engaged? Carlo, we've been together 6 weeks." "I know. And I'm not proposing. Not yet. Not like this. But in my world, serious relationships are marked by formal commitments. The fact that we've been together this long without any public declaration is raising questions, making people wonder if this is real or just another brief affair." "So what are you asking?" "I'm asking if you'd be willing to wear a ring. Not an engagement ring, but something that signals commitment. A promise ring, essentially. Something that tells my world that you're mine, and I'm serious about you." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a delicate velvet box. "I had this made for you. No pressure. If it's too much too soon, we'll find another way." He opened the box to reveal a stunning ring, simple but elegant, a single diamond set in white gold. Not ostentatious, though clearly expensive and meaningful. "It's beautiful," I spoke quietly. "It's a choice. You can say no. I'll understand. But if you say yes, it means you're in this with me, publicly. No more hiding, no more uncertainty about what we are to each other." His dark look held mine. I want you to say yes. I want the world to know you're mine. But only if that's what you want to. 6 weeks ago, I'd been fighting over a parking spot with a stranger. Now I was being offered a promise ring by that same man. A man who'd become essential to my life in ways I couldn't have predicted. It was too fast, too intense, too much. It was also exactly what I wanted. Yes, I said, my speech icy despite my racing heart. I'll wear your ring. I'll be yours publicly. I choose this. I choose you. The smile that broke across Carlo's face was worth every risk I was taking. He placed the ring on my finger. A perfect fit. Because of course he'd found out my size somehow. And pulled me into his arms. You won't regret this, he promised against my hair. I'll make sure of it. You keep saying that, I said, but I was smiling. Eventually, you're going to have to prove it. I'll spend the rest of my life proving it if I have to. He pulled back to look at me, his face intense. I know this is fast. I know it's crazy. But I've never been more certain of anything. You're it for me, Adriana. The real thing. The person I want to build a life with. You're insane, I said, but I was kissing him, the ring dazzling in the light as I ran my hands through his hair. Completely insane, he agreed between kisses. But you're here anyway. You're wearing my ring. You're choosing this life with me. So what does that make you? Just as insane as you are, maybe more. Perfect. We'll be crazy together. Later that night, lying in bed with Carlo's arms around me and the ring on my finger catching moonlight from the window, I thought about the road that had transported me here. From fighting over a parking spot to wearing a promise ring from one of Naples' most powerful men, from struggling alone to building a successful business with support and opportunities that were previously unthinkable. It was fast. It was reckless. It probably violated every rule of sensible relationship building. It was also the best decision I'd ever made. Adriana? Carlo's voice was soft in the darkness. Thank you for being stubborn, for refusing to give up that parking spot, for fighting me when everyone else would have just moved their car. He pressed a kiss to my shoulder. You changed my entire life in the span of a 5-minute argument. That's impressive. You're welcome, though technically you changed my life. I was just protecting my parking space. You were protecting your right to exist in a space someone else wanted. You were refusing to be moved or dismissed, or treated as less important. He tightened his arms around me. That's what made me fall for you. That stubborn refusal to be anything other than exactly who you are. I love you, I said, the words surprising me even as I said them. I hadn't planned to say it, hadn't thought I was ready. But lying there in his arms, wearing his ring, I realized it was simply true. Carlo went very still. Then he rolled me onto my back, looking down at me with a zeal that caught my breath. Say it again. I love you, Carlo Ferretti. Crazy, dangerous, impossible you. I love you too, he said in a husky tone of his voice. From the moment you refused to move your ridiculous Fiat. From the moment you looked at me like I was just an annoying man instead of someone to fear. I've been falling since then. He'd seemed like a vow, like a start instead of just another moment. 6 weeks ago, I'd been fighting for a parking spot. Now I was fighting for a future with a man who'd seen me when I was invisible, who'd valued me when I felt worthless, who'd refused to allow me back out even when the smart thing would have been to walk away. It was the best fight I'd ever picked, and I had no intention of surrendering.